On today's Minute of the Apes, courtesy of WatchMojo.com, here are the top 10 most heroic deaths in movies. Captain John Miller from Saving Private Ryan at number 10. Nux from Mad Max Fury Road at 9. Bing Bong from Inside Out at number 8. Spock from Star Trek The Wrath of Khan, number 7. Number 6, Jyn Erso and Company from Rogue One, a Star Wars story. Coming at 5, William Wallace from Braveheart. 4, Severus Snape from Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. 3, Tony Stark from Avengers Endgame. 2, Logan from Logan. And coming in at number 1, Boromir from The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of Rings at number 1. And coming in at 1,573rd, Krull from Planet of the Apes.
Hello and welcome to Minute of the Apes, the daily podcast where we break down every minute of the Planet of the Apes movies, 1 minute at a time. I am Todd, and I would like to give a standing ovation to my friend Richard for the single best, most well thought out tease that you've ever done. That literally, that was a show in and of itself. It was fucking perfect. It told truth. It gave everything we know we're going to get in the show, and it also had humor. So to you.
Oh, thank you.
Sean, can you live up to that?
Nope.
Okay. Sean is out. Richard is the star now.
We can talk about the top 10 most stories. I was like, yeah, I agree with that. I don't know about that one. Okay, I agree with that one too. But the point is what happens in this minute, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Well, let's find out.
Real quick, how deep does that actual list go? Did you ever actually look at how far down it goes?
It's just 10.
They only gave 10.
They only 10. I'm not even familiar with that site as well. I just kind of Googled to see what was out there.
Right.
This is a site that actually put together a list, which is a great idea.
So number 1 was Boromir.
Boromir from Lord of the Rings.
I mean, that's very subjective, but
Yeah.
It's a very but that's a film that works.
I agreed with Jyn Erso and Rogue One. I thought that was a great little list.
Yeah.
I don't know that I would put an animated film Bing Bong on there, but
Bing Bong. Oh, from Inside Out, whenever Bing Bong, she has to give up on her childhood imaginary friend to grow. Oh, that one broke my heart.
Yeah.
All right.
They'll touch you. It's definitely. I'm sorry. I'm going to do the opening of Up with the old man and his wife dying. Oh,
come on!
I literally was. What was that?
You, Pixar.
That's in the first 10 minutes of the movie, and
Crying,
I'm spent.
and there's no dialogue.
But I mean, this is supposed to, on some level, the list was supposed to be heroic deaths, right?
Oh, heroic deaths.
Heroic deaths, not just top 10 deaths. Heroic deaths.
Yeah.
So you have
heroic deaths.
You have to die with some purpose or point.
Obi-Wan Kenobi's not in that 10. If you want a heroic death, he gives himself so our hero can go on.
Yeah.
Well, technically, her death in Up made the whole thing of him wanting to be alone. But if he hadn't been alone, then the little boy wouldn't have shown up, and then he would have been able to refuse the call and then go on the trip. So her dying really did motivate. It was very heroic.
But it wasn't dying isn't necessarily heroic action.
Can I say how on point though we've been going from Friday into the in between where we began talking about death and its impending nature and
it
how you
all
being
comes back around.
And here's
all
death
comes back.
again.
It's Monday.
All right,
Getting some dying.
While I do this, because for whatever reason the minute itself went bye-bye. There it is. Sean, why don't you tell us what's going on with minute 96?
All right, we're going to start minute 96 with Attar sending somebody flying. It ends with Thade about to choke a human.
All right, here it comes. Minute 96. A bunch of monkeys on the Planet of the Apes.
My fight is with Thade, not you!
Then your fight is with me!
96, we have an Oberon's worth of apes and humans, 2 displaced pods worth of humans and apes, so many wild humans, apes and -2 gorillas, humans on the loose, and the final assault has begun!
All right, we begin with the face-off between Attar and Kroll. We see Attar oddly looking about and then back as he sees Kroll sauntering to him. That's not really a monkey walk, that's a saunter.
Yeah.
And probably what is the most Tim Burton-like camera move to this point. We pushed to Attar as it swings around over his shoulder, and we see the two of them come together. A lot of positive shots, them looking basically into lens until we kind of go over Kroll's shoulder. They begin their back and forth. My fight's not with you. If you're fighting against Thade, then it is with me, which wasn't delivered as efficiently a line as I would think, but we can get to that. They then leap into the air, which in a better movie, this is actually a flying sequence when they actually join and find out that they love each other. Instead, they come crashing back down to the ground, beat the crap out of Attar before for no reason, he loses his advantage and Attar rolls over. And we just get about 20 seconds of beat the shit out of each other's shots until we don't even get a moment of death for Kroll. He's just dead.
Well,
now,
he's dead, yeah.
we do get a very pretty shot at about 54 seconds of just the chaos, and we get sunlight coming through the structure of the Oberon laying there in the ground. And then till finally we get at the very end to Thade, and once again he throws a bunch of humans in the air. And it stops with him grabbing a human by the throat. Okay, so let's go back to this battle. If we look at what we talked about last week, where this confrontation is not very well set up, that it isn't just a one-on-one, that Attar begins looking at Marky Mark before he gets his attention taken away. Unnecessary diversion, just make these two fight.
Right.
We get the movie trope of the two enemies facing each other across the battlefield, but nobody's going to attack them. Yeah. I would have laughed my ass off as if they were coming at each other. If just somebody came up behind Attar and just stabbed him in the back and then ran away.
What I always find funny too is that you look at the background action. Just watch the background action. Mm-hmm. That has to not so much be choreographed as much as an assistant director is going to say,
"That little girl right there is about to do this."
Okay, I'll look
she's not exactly, but it looks like she's about to do that, kind of like I'm using two fists and hitting a punching bag.
So you've got an assistant director whose job it is to make sure that the screen action stays consistent, that they've got people going, that the lens is occupied as much as the director wants. What also drives me nuts is in these moments, you've got all this. In fact, here's the sound effect, and I want you, if people speak, just pay attention to the sound effects in the background. So you hear a little chaos. They have to be as quiet as they can. It's the same reason that you walk into a bar scene in a movie and there are people in the background. There's an actual art to that they teach people how to have a conversation without actually saying anything. And so these people are talking. They may be talking above everything. It's absolute quiet in the room, so they can capture that. Oh, yeah. It's the lie of movie making.
All of those people in the club that are dancing are not dancing to a beat.
Yeah. They've been given, there's a metronome that goes off, and it's like, keep the time, and all of you do this together, and it's all fake. And in this moment, I'm watching all these people, and they're being as quiet as they can while they beat the fuck out of each other.
Well, now we also establish here, at least we now know that the gorillas can jump really high, too. They're just choosing not to, I guess. And to your previous minute, you get to finally see what Attar was wearing on his club and fist.
This is where I'd like to ask both of you if this line exchange made more sense to you. My fight is with Thade, not with you. Then your fight is with me. Not then your fight is with me. Then your fight's with me. What? It comes off so boring and flat. It does nothing.
But we haven't had any dialogue for the last 5 minutes.
And we've also had nothing to ever make them outside of glare.
And we have a moment where we can have a meaningful exchange between these two characters because we haven't had one in 5 minutes, and this is what we get. We didn't even see Kroll making his way towards Thade. Right. Like if we like the idea, or we've talked about the idea that it's Leo and Thade and it's Kroll and Attar on some level, even if Attar is nothing more than a surrogate for Thade. Right. Kroll isn't moving towards Thade. I would need to see Kroll making his way towards Thade to take Thade down
where everybody is on the battlefield.
For Thade to for Kroll just to walk up and him say to Attar, my fight is with Thade, not with you. You're killing other gorillas. It's not just with Thade.
Right.
Clearly, you've taken up some type of mantle towards humans to help these humans in this particular battle. Your fight is with Attar.
Right.
If the script wanted us to understand there was more history between Kroll and Thade. I mean, Ari mentions that, he was up becoming general until he got kicked out for some reason, and her senator father took him in as a house monkey, and
House monkey. It just makes me go all.
But I mean, there is supposed to be some history behind this, but it never really got fully fleshed out, and so this battle doesn't have the potency that the potency that it needs to. The exchange of having him say, "My fight is with Thade," even though you're slaughtering the monkeys, and Attar to say, "Nope, it's with me." It falls flat.
This will surprise no one. I'm pulling up a quote. I'm going to read it because when I see this moment, this is the dialogue I expect. The circle is now complete. When I left you, I was but a learner, but now I am the master. Only a master of evil, Darth. They should have fucking had this exchange. There should have been something like that. If that had happened, then I'm like, yeah, fucking battle it out. Monkeys, go. But nothing. It's about Thade.
Your time away has made you weak or something.
Yes, anything.
Well,
Fuck.
and
Terrible.
so what they do to resolve this conflict is he takes his gauntlets off and
why would I drop my swords?
And he puts his swords down.
I've got swords.
What honorable battle are you expecting to happen in this particular moment? Because you're now fighting for Thade and you're fighting for your beef with Thade. Like there's no
unless we have some moment that tells us that the thing that Kroll hated about Attar was his need to take weapons. Gauntlets and you need to rely on yourself. We need to know these things for him to take it off. I'm going to kill you with my hands.
That's pulling the Captain Marvel of, you can't fight me, you've got to beat me without your powers. And she's like, no, fuck you. I'm just going to win.
Yeah.
Keep the swords. Win.
So we get the giant leap, right? Any comments on the giant leap other than let me know the girls can do the giant leap?
Well, literally, I did think it made me think of La La Land, how it gets into that area at the end where it becomes its own little contained idea of a musical where they actually kind of fly together because they're so in love. That's what this comes off. It doesn't. It's like they jump in the air to end up in each other's arms.
But they weren't that far away from each other to begin with.
No,
they were not. They didn't have that distance between them when they're doing the little circling around them. They were actually relatively close to one another. So, but instead, somehow they managed to leap across a battlefield.
Yeah, the last shot where we see them together is an over-the-shoulder 28 from Kroll's shoulder to Attar.
They're probably 10 feet away at most.
Maybe. And when they jump, let's see,
look at that distance.
That distance right there where they're in the air is maybe 7 to 8 feet, but we've already seen them jump from another 10 feet away from their actual point. So they are suddenly leaping close to probably 30 feet.
Yeah.
To get there, that's you look at them, there are people down below, that's at least a good 12 feet in the air. I don't understand also why this is them wanting to put monkeys jumping. Why didn't they just run at each other?
Well, I mean, even if you go back to 9 seconds, if you look behind Kroll, you can see a chimpanzee go flying through the air, but it's so weightless looking. It almost looks like a little flea jumping. Watch right back here, over right here. Whee!
Yeah.
I'm okay. I like all the idea of running on all fours. I like the jumping, but when it becomes the only way they can exist, then it kind of ruins the effect of all of it.
You need to you need to see more of it happening in the background.
I mean, here's the interesting thing. Kroll lays down his swords.
Attar
takes off his glove. Say something about that. I don't need weapons to fight you. I've never. Give me anything. Give me some idea of why they're doing it. It doesn't make sense otherwise.
No, and we're gonna have a moment where Kroll comes in and starts.
Kroll is winning the fight at first.
Kroll is winning. He's wailing on Attar. Attar manages to get the advantage over him to the point that Attar basically beats Kroll in the chest until he dies.
I'm assuming because otherwise it's just Kroll rolls him over and gets squashed. I'm assuming that Kroll isn't winning because Attar is wearing armor. That's the only thing I can think of, because otherwise, why is he beating his chest and then all of a sudden Attar's got the upper hand?
And to that point, if I see Attar wearing armor? Why am I putting my swords down? That
Yeah.
would be the very reason I think, okay, my fists aren't going to do it. I got to land a blow in his face, and I may not get there.
I'm just really disturbed by Kroll's death.
It's
Because
it's very cavalier.
It's
dismissive.
Tivol, Gunner, Kroll. 3 of our main party have died in the last like 5 minutes, and there's nothing about any of these deaths that are heroic or interesting. They're just dead. I have no weight behind them.
Nobody
I have
seems to notice this. Yeah.
Why don't I have Ari? Because she loves Kroll. Why isn't she seeing
Ari should
that?
be there crying. She should have run in for Kroll and not for Dana.
Because she fell asleep.
There's how you can end up knocking her out. She runs in to save Kroll. Attar, boom, knocks her back. She gets knocked out.
Dana then
Estella
finds
goes over, and then that's when she sees it. That makes a lot more sense.
But it really is unfortunate that we had a really good character in Kroll.
He's probably the
had
most interesting.
He had an
those
interesting
ones.
background of our travelers, and he's just dead. And there's no meaning behind it. It doesn't do anything. It just I suppose it could raise Attar up in terms of how ruthless Attar is. But even the fight itself is just him kind of pounding on his chest, and then
Let's think about how Boromir dies in Lord of the Rings. He is trying to protect the hobbits who's been in question because he feels the power of the ring, and it's in doubt whether he's a true part of the party. He then walks forward and takes arrow after arrow and keeps fighting while they're getting away. That's heroic. That's what's heroic about it. When Kroll dies, it is simply, there's not even a moment of like the last gasp. He's not giving his life or anything. He just
dies.
He just quits.
We don't see any blood. We don't see anything. Is
he pulled
the
a Padme
score even doing
he
it?
lost the will to live.
Is
after
the
giving
score
birth.
even music even do anything? It just kind of dies, right?
Let's go back.
Do we get like a sad
sting of oh my god, he's dead?
So I'm going to play this from the moment that they jump into the air together, and I'll let you know when Kroll rolls over and when we separate the air. We got combative music, we got fights, and right here we roll and Kroll's on her back. And now she's beating. Music's doing nothing. But that's not a death to me. You go back to Star Wars when Obi-Wan dies. It's the they get into all these different melodic themes. There's nothing.
No, we've now lost 3 characters in the span of the last like 5 days.
And I think the problem is
5 minutes, and there's nothing really exciting about those.
they're
just
dead, but we don't really know they're dead. Does that
True.
make-
That's the interesting thing
like
to me
Chris
too.
Christopherson, his character still feels like he could come out of the shadows and say, "I have an extra army of people with me," because they didn't really show him dead; they show him fall down. The characters that we've seen die here have we heard a back break. Okay, he could be wounded. We didn't really see him die.
Right.
The bald guy got picked up and thrown on the ground and hit for a couple of times, but you didn't really see him dead.
No.
This guy, this ape, we've seen get beat, and
He's kinda out of it.
Attar screams at the end of it, but he doesn't look like he's dead. He looks like
No.
he's unconscious. So there's not really, I mean, even though we're assuming these characters are dead, it doesn't have the weight of death behind it.
And again, some dialogue could help here. Attar
Ari-
saying something about his holy war.
The way Ari fell down,
It could kind of bring it back.
the way Ari fell down, she looks just as dead as
Agreed.
everybody else here.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes me wonder if the studio didn't come back and say soft pedal the death. You can kill, but we want
But
this
no
to be a
blood-
family
bloodless
movie.
death.
Is it possible, that they were trying to go for a rating and they dialed some of these back down? I
Or
don't know.
maybe it went to the rating board and they thought it's too brutal and they cut it back. That happens all the time too. But
It doesn't look. I mean, it doesn't look like a shot. I mean, he really pounded me. He pounded me. Just kind of fell unconscious. I
Yeah,
don't think there was much more to see to that.
I always think, and I know we've quoted The Last of Us a lot here lately, but those guys talked about that one thing that they wanted to do with that story was to, even the villains they wanted to humanize and say, no, they just have a path that they're trying to get down to. They're no more villainous than anybody else. I would have loved to seen that about Attar here. You just killed somebody that was vastly important to you. Yes, you've won, but also that heartache of you've killed that person. Anything that's complexity to a character, but that's one of the things that bugs me is everybody is simply just straight down and cut off from they don't have any emotion. They don't give anything to the scene. His scream doesn't mean anything to me.
Oh, particularly
With his
for
digital mouth
particularly
extension?
for the 1 second cut that happens after before we resume Thade, because it is nothing. Boom.
Yeah.
What was that? He screams.
It would have been nice to see a wide shot of him of like
Battlefield standing over the body.
He screams, raises his hands above his head, and then we have a shot of the sun behind the wreckage of
which
the
is
Oberon.
a pretty shot.
Behind the wreckage of the Oberon, and people just fighting.
Yeah.
And it has no meaning for Attar. It has no meaning for Krull. It's nothing. And then just
It's a simple way to cut away to something else.
a split second later, we're now back on Thade fighting, right? And nobody reacts to Krull. Nobody reacts to Attar. That one editing choice was just I think a bad
Right.
a bad way to get to Thade. You could have just jumped straight to Thade.
Right.
Honestly.
How strong is Thade? I mean, he can yeet 200.
Yeah, he then grabs two men and flings them both off on the side.
And he's never exhausted.
No, and if you look, I mean, we figured he was what, 5'6", and he throws them out of camera range. So they went a good 10, 15 feet in the air to begin with. How is any human supposed to beat him?
Well, the human here that comes that he's going to obviously
That he can take a punch from?
actually the human gets a punch in, and it makes.
He's got like a rock or something in his hand, right?
What I would have found interesting too is, and I'm shocked that Burton doesn't do more of this. Usually, when you're going to punch a character like that and see them react, you cut in on a tight shot so you can actually see their face.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a boxing trope. If you're going to punch the hero, there's nothing. It stays wide, and I don't care, and I don't really know that he's, you got to go in on me, because then the way that he goes and seizes that guy by the throat tells me you landed a good punch, but it's,
Yeah.
It's kind of flat.
Yeah.
kind of flat. Well, I think that brings us to the end of that kind of flat moment, unless one of you has something else.
No, not for this one.
I'm shocked we got 22 minutes out of that.
Well,
I really am.
we have the death of a major character of this movie.
True,
I'll move Tivol and Gunnar off to the side in terms of major characters. Krull was supposed to be a major character, and this is just kind of anticlimactic. He's like, he's dead.
Yeah, I kind of anticlimactically agree. All right, I think that's it. We will call it done for a Monday. Everyone, have a great day.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Coming in